The signal from the stars. The mountain observatory sat like a silent sentinel against the star-studded sky, its white dome gleaming under the light of a full moon. Dr. Sarah Chen adjusted her headphones, her eyes fixed on the oscillating patterns crossing her monitor. After 15 years of searching the cosmos for signs of intelligent life, she had learned to distinguish between the random noise of the universe and patterns that might mean something more. This signal was different. She leaned closer to the screen, her heart racing as she analyzed the repeating sequence. Unlike the random bursts of radiation from distant stars or the regular pulses of rotating neutron stars, this pattern showed complexity, mathematical precision that couldn't be natural. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, running the standard verification protocols she had used countless times before. Come on, she whispered, watching as the computer processed the data. The signal source was moving, too fast for any known celestial object. When the results appeared, she sat back in her chair, breath caught in her throat. The signal contained prime numbers, the universal language of mathematics, arranged in a way that could only be intentional. Sarah reached for her phone to alert her colleagues but stopped. In her career at SETI, she had seen too many promising signals turn into disappointments, too many careers destroyed by premature announcements. She needed more data. The night deepened as she tracked the signal, watching it grow stronger. Whatever was transmitting it was approaching Earth. Her computer models projected a trajectory that would bring it into the upper atmosphere within hours. Sarah's excitement gave way to concern. This wasn't just first contact, it was an arrival. The signal changed suddenly, becoming erratic. Through her headphones, she heard new patterns emerge. Urgent, almost desperate. Something was wrong. Sarah watched in horror as the tracking data showed the object's controlled descent, turning into a rapid fall. A flash of light streaked across the sky outside her window, heading toward the dense forests that surrounded the observatory. The impact came seconds later, a distant thud that shook the building's foundation. Sarah grabbed her emergency kit, a habit from years of wilderness research, and ran to her truck. The forest was pitch black except for her headlights as she followed the coordinates from her tracking system. The air grew thick with an odd metallic scent as she approached the crash site. Through the trees, she saw an unearthly glow, blue-green light filtering through the canopy. Sarah parked and proceeded on foot, her flashlight beam catching glimpses of broken branches and scorched earth. When she reached the impact site, she nearly dropped her light. A sleek, oval pod about the size of a small car lay partially buried in the ground. Its surface shimmered with iridescent patterns that seemed to pulse with internal light. A crack appeared in the pod's surface, spreading like ice breaking on a pond. Sarah took cover behind a tree, her scientific curiosity warring with basic survival instincts. The pod split open with a soft hiss, releasing a cloud of luminescent vapor. From within emerged a figure that made Sarah question everything she thought she knew about alien life. The being was humanoid, tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shimmer like the northern lights. But what struck Sarah most were the eyes. Large, luminous, and unmistakably intelligent. The alien stumbled, clearly injured, and Sarah's human instincts took over. She rushed forward to help, catching the being before they could fall. Up close, she could see that the alien's skin wasn't just shimmering. It was changing color in response to movement and touch, like living aurora borealis. The alien's eyes met hers, and Sarah felt a connection that transcended species. There was fear there, but also trust and desperate need. A sound emerged from the alien's throat, musical tones that somehow conveyed meaning despite being unlike any human language. Sarah helped the alien sit against a fallen log, noticing how they favored their right side. "I'm Sarah," she said, pointing to herself. "I want to help." The alien watched her intently, then raised a hand to touch their own chest. "Lyra," they said, the word formed carefully, as if testing how it felt. Sarah wasn't sure if this was their name or their attempt to speak English, but it gave her something to work with. As she examined Lyra's injuries, finding what appeared to be burns and bruises, but no severe trauma. Her phone buzzed. Messages were pouring in from other observatories that had tracked the object's descent. Soon, government agencies would be mobilizing. She had perhaps an hour before the area would be swarming with officials. Lyra seemed to sense her concern. They pointed to the sky, then made a gesture like something pursuing them. Their skin darkened with patterns that reminded Sarah of storm clouds. The message was clear. They were running from something. Sarah made a decision that would change both their lives forever. She helped Lyra to her feet and gestured toward her truck. "Come with me. I'll keep you safe." Lyra understood. As they made their way through the dark forest, Sarah's mind raced with questions. Who was Lyra running from? What had brought them to Earth? And what would happen when others discovered their presence? The drive back to her cabin was tense, with every set of headlights in her rearview mirror causing her heart to race. She had bypassed the main road, taking the old logging tracks she knew from years of fieldwork. Her cabin, originally chosen for its isolation and proximity to the observatory, now seemed like Providence. Inside, Sarah helped Lyra settle onto her couch. The alien skin had taken on softer hues, though occasional ripples of darker colors suggested ongoing pain or anxiety. Sarah gathered medical supplies, hoping human first aid would work on alien physiology. As she treated what injuries she could identify, Lyra began making patterns with their hands in the air. To Sarah's amazement, mathematical equations appeared as faint traces of light, hanging in the space between them. Physics equations, astronomical coordinates, universal constants, a language they could both understand. Through this mathematical discourse, Sarah began to piece together Lyra's story. They were fleeing from a conflict that threatened not just their own world, but potentially many others. Earth's relative isolation had made it an ideal hiding place, but their pursuers wouldn't be far behind. Dawn was breaking when Sarah finished securing the cabin's windows and setting up basic surveillance equipment. Lyra had fallen into what seemed like sleep, their skin pulsing softly with gentle waves of blue and green. Sarah watched them, her scientist's mind already cataloging observations, but her human heart understanding that she had stepped into something far bigger than scientific discovery. She picked up her phone, looking at the dozens of missed calls from her colleagues. Soon, she would have to make decisions about how to proceed, who to trust, what to reveal. But for now, in the quiet of the morning, she had done what humans do best. She had helped someone in need, crossing the boundaries of space and species to offer sanctuary to a stranger. The sun rose over the mountains, casting long shadows through the trees. Sarah Chin, who had spent her life looking to the stars for answers, now found herself guarding one of their secrets. And somehow she knew this was just the beginning. Hidden sanctuary. The first week of hiding an alien fugitive was harder than Sarah had imagined. Every unexpected sound made her jump. Every passing helicopter seemed to hover too long, and her inbox overflowed with increasingly urgent messages from colleagues about the meteorological anomaly they'd tracked. Lyra proved to be both a fascinating guest and a challenging one. Their bioluminescent skin made concealment difficult. Emotions rippled across their surface in waves of color that Sarah was slowly learning to interpret. Blues for calm, purples for curiosity, deep reds for concern. The alien needed no lamp in darkness, their natural glow providing enough light to read by. Communication evolved rapidly. Lyra absorbed English with remarkable speed, though speaking it seemed to cause them physical discomfort. Instead, they developed a hybrid language of mathematics, gesture, and written words. Sarah found herself spending hours in conversation, learning about a universe far vaster and more complex than humanity had imagined. "Your people," Lyra wrote one evening, their skin shifting through shades of ocean blue. "They believe they are alone." Sarah considered the question carefully. "Most of us hope we're not. That's why I do my work. But we've never had proof until now." Lyra's surface rippled with what Sarah had come to recognize as their version of a smile. "Yet when you found me, you did not alert your authorities. Why?" "Because you were afraid. Sarah replied simply. And sometimes being human means following your heart instead of protocol. The alien skin flushed with warm gold, a new color Sarah hadn't seen before. Before she could ask about it, her security system pinged. Someone was coming up the access road. Sarah quickly helped Lyra into the hidden room she'd prepared beneath her office floor. They'd practiced this drill several times, but this was the first real test. As Lyra disappeared into the concealed space, Sarah's phone rang. The caller ID showed Marcus Wong, her closest colleague at the observatory. She took a deep breath and answered, "Hey Marcus, what brings you out here?" "Open up, Sarah. We need to talk." Minutes later, Marcus sat at her kitchen table, his usual friendly demeanor replaced by serious concern. He'd been her research partner for 8 years, and she could tell he knew something was off. "You've been avoiding everyone since the event," he said, not touching the coffee she'd offered. "The military's involved now. They're saying it wasn't a meteor." Sarah kept her expression neutral. "What do they think it was?" "They're not saying. But I know you were tracking something unusual that night. Your equipment logged a signal unlike anything we've seen before." He leaned forward. "Sarah, if you found something." "I've already submitted my report," she said carefully. "Unusual atmospheric phenomenon, possibly ball lightning. Nothing conclusive." Marcus's eyes narrowed. "That report is bullshit, and we both know it. I've seen your work for 10 years. You don't make mistakes in your data analysis." He pulled out his tablet, showing her a spectral analysis. "This signature, it's artificial." And the trajectory was controlled until the final descent. Below them, in the hidden room, something made a soft thud. Marcus's head snapped toward the sound. "What was that?" "Old house," Sarah said quickly. "The foundation settles at night." But Marcus was already moving, his eyes scanning the room with new purpose. "You know, it's funny. The military's been using thermal imaging to search the crash area. They keep getting these strange readings. Heat signatures that appear and disappear, almost like something's trying to hide." Sarah's heart raced, but years of scientific discipline kept her voice steady. "What are you suggesting?" "I don't know," Marcus said, standing. "But I do know you. And you've been different since that night. Distracted. Scared." He walked to her window, looking out at the darkening forest. "Whatever you found, whatever you're protecting, you don't have to do it alone." The moment stretched between them, years of trust and friendship weighing against the incredible secret beneath their feet. Before Sarah could respond, the lights flickered and died, plunging the cabin into darkness. Except it wasn't completely dark. A faint, ethereal glow seeped through the floorboards, Lyra's anxiety manifesting in stronger bioluminescence. Marcus stared at the light, his expression shifting from confusion to wonder. "My God," he whispered, "you actually did it. You found one." Sarah moved to block his path to the hidden room, but Marcus raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "Sarah, stop. Think about what this means. This is everything we've worked for, everything you've dreamed of proving." "It's not that simple," Sarah said, her voice tight. "There are things you don't understand." "Then help me understand." He sat back down, deliberately non-threatening. "Because right now you're harboring something that every government on Earth would kill to get their hands on. And from the looks of it, you're in way over your head." The glow beneath the floorboards pulsed once, twice, then steadied. Sarah recognized the pattern. Lyra was making a decision. Before she could stop it, the hidden panel swung open. Lyra emerged gracefully, their skin shimmering with calm blues and decisive greens. Marcus fell back in his chair, eyes wide with awe. The alien looked at him, then at Sarah, and began to write in the air with trails of light. "He speaks truth," the glowing words read. "You cannot protect me alone." Sarah watched as Marcus's scientific training took over, his initial shock giving way to intense fascination as he observed Lyra's method of communication. She saw the same wonder in his eyes that she had felt that first night. Okay, Sarah said finally. But before I explain everything, I need your word. What I'm about to tell you goes beyond national security, beyond human politics. There are lives at stake, not just here, but on worlds we didn't even know existed. Marcus nodded slowly, unable to take his eyes off Lyra. I spent my whole career looking for proof we're not alone. I'm not about to betray it when it finally shows up in my friend's cabin. As Sarah began to explain, Lyra's skin shifted to that warm golden hue again. This time, Sarah understood what it meant. Hope. Perhaps Marcus was right. She couldn't protect Lyra alone. But with help, with trust, they might stand a chance against whatever was coming. Outside, the forest grew quiet as night settled in. Inside the cabin, 2 human scientists and an alien refugee began to plan, their shadows moving across the walls as Lyra's gentle light illuminated their impromptu council of war. The universe had become a much smaller place, and their part in it much larger than they'd ever imagined. Hunters in the dark. Hunters in the dark. The black SUVs appeared on a Wednesday, their tinted windows reflecting the mountain sunrise as they wound up the access road toward the observatory. Sarah watched them through her binoculars from the cabin's hidden observation post, her stomach nodding as she counted 4 vehicles. Behind her, Lyra's skin had taken on the deep crimson of alarm. "They're not human," Lyra wrote in glowing script, their movements sharp with urgency. "The hunters use molecular reconstruction to mimic local species, but their energy signatures cannot be hidden from my kind." Marcus, who had spent the last 3 days helping them fortify the cabin with modified monitoring equipment, looked up from his laptop. The thermal readings just went crazy. Whatever's in those vehicles, they're running hot, way above human body temperature. Sarah had known this moment would come, but the reality still sent chills down her spine. Over the past week, Lyra had shared more about their pursuers, the Vardic, a faction of their species that believed in absolute isolation from other civilizations. They saw Lyra's mission of peaceful contact as a threat to their way of life, one they would eliminate at any cost. "Time to implement Protocol Omega," Sarah said, moving to the specialized equipment they'd prepared. Marcus nodded, beginning the shutdown sequence that would mask any trace of their presence. They had planned for this, but plans were one thing, reality was another. Lyra's hand touched Sarah's shoulder, their skin pulsing with waves of deep blue. Concern mixed with something else, something Sarah had begun to recognize but hadn't dared name. The alien's touch sent a warm current through her, a connection that transcended their biological differences. "You must leave," Lyra wrote. "They will not hesitate to eliminate witnesses." "We're not leaving you," Sarah replied firmly. "Marcus, are the scramblers ready?" He held up 3 small devices they'd constructed using components from Lyra's escape pod. "Ready. These should mask our biosignatures for about 6 hours each. After that, we'll be long gone," Sarah finished. She activated her satellite phone, the only piece of technology they'd deemed safe to use, and dialed a number she'd hoped never to need. A gruff voice answered on the first ring. "About damn time you called, sis. David, we need extraction. Full protocol, 3 passengers." Her brother, a former Special Forces operator who now worked in private security, didn't hesitate. "Location Alpha or Bravo?" "Neither. They're compromised. We'll need to move to Site Echo." "Jesus, Sarah, that's 4 hours through rough country." "It's our only option. How fast can you get here?" "Already moving. Stay alive for 2 hours." The line went dead as Sarah turned to her companions. "We have to hold out for 2 hours. The Vardic may look human, but Lyra says they can't maintain the mimicry under stress. If we can expose them, it might buy us time." Marcus distributed the scramblers, showing Lyra how to activate the human-designed interface they'd added. "These should mask your bioluminescence too. But they're not perfect. Try to stay calm and steady to minimize energy fluctuations." Lyra's skin swirled with patterns of determination. Geometric shapes that Sarah had learned indicated strategic thinking. The alien began sketching complex formulae in the air, explaining through mathematics and light how the Vardek's molecular reconstruction could be disrupted. They worked quickly, converting their defensive measures to exploit this weakness. The SUVs were getting closer. They could hear the engines now, growing louder as they approached the cabin's hidden access road. Sarah felt a sudden surge of emotion as she watched Lyra work. The alien's presence in her life had changed everything, challenging not just her scientific understanding, but her heart as well. The thought of losing them now was unbearable. The first attack came without warning. A blast of energy shattered the cabin's reinforced windows, sending cascades of safety glass across the floor. Sarah and Marcus dove for cover, while Lyra's skin flared with protective patterns, creating a brief shield of pure energy that deflected the worst of the debris. "They're trying to flush us out," Marcus shouted over the ringing in their ears. "They want Lyra alive." Sarah activated her scrambler, feeling the strange tingle as it masked her biological signature. Through the broken windows, she could see figures approaching, perfectly human in appearance, but moving with an unnatural synchronization that betrayed their true nature. Lyra's written words appeared in front of them, glowing urgent and bright. "The water. Their reconstruction fails in rapid temperature change." Sarah's mind raced to their preparation. The cabin's fire suppression system. They'd modified it the day before, filling it with ice-cold mountain water. She caught Marcus's eye and nodded toward the control panel. The next few moments were chaos. As the Vardek hunters breached the cabin's door, Marcus triggered the sprinklers. The effect was immediate and horrifying. The freezing water caused their human disguises to ripple and distort, revealing glimpses of their true forms. Crystalline beings of pure energy barely contained within physical shells. The hunters reeled back, their facades cracking like glass. Sarah used the distraction to activate the electromagnetic pulse they'd rigged, targeting the specific frequency Lyra had identified as disruptive to Vardek energy patterns. The alien screams were like nothing human vocal cords could produce, a harmonic resonance that shattered the remaining windows and sent Marcus staggering back with his hands over his ears. But Lyra stood firm, their skin blazing with patterns of defiance as they faced their pursuers. In the confusion, Sarah saw their chance. "Now," she yelled, triggering the smoke grenades they'd planted around the cabin's perimeter. Dense, white smoke filled the air, providing cover as they made their way to the escape tunnel they'd prepared beneath the cabin's foundation. As they moved through the narrow passage, Sarah felt Lyra's hand find hers in the darkness. The alien's touch was electric, their skin glowing just enough to light their way. Behind them, they could hear the Vardek recovering, their angry resonance penetrating even through yards of earth. They emerged into the forest half a mile from the cabin, but they couldn't stop. David would be waiting at the rendezvous point, and they had to reach it before the scramblers failed. As they moved through the wilderness, Sarah realized with startling clarity that she would do anything to protect Lyra. Not for science, not for humanity, but for love. The forest shadows lengthened as they pressed on, each step taking them further from the life Sarah had known and deeper into an adventure she never could have imagined. Behind them, the hunters would regroup and pursue. Ahead lay uncertainty and danger. But Lyra's hand remained in hers, warm and sure, their shared determination lighting the way forward. Truth and trust. David Chen's safe house turned out to be an abandoned Cold War bunker, buried deep in the Cascade Mountains. As Sarah watched her brother input the complex entry codes, she couldn't help but wonder how many other secrets he'd kept during his military career. "Home, sweet home," David said as the heavy doors swung open. "At least until we figure out our next move." The facility was surprisingly well maintained, with modern equipment mixed among the vintage control panels. Lyra's skin rippled with interest as they took in the technology, their natural glow casting dancing shadows on the concrete walls. Marcus whistled low. "Your brother's been holding out on us, Sarah. You don't know the half of it," David replied, leading them deeper into the complex. "But right now, we need to talk about what's really going on." He turned to Lyra, starting with the whole truth about why you're here. Lyra's skin shifted through patterns of hesitation before settling into a resolved geometric pattern. Their luminescent writing appeared in the air, more elaborate than usual. I am what my people call a Nexus Guardian. We are charged with maintaining the balance between civilizations, preventing any single species from dominating or destroying others. The Vardek seek to end this practice, believing that isolation is the only path to survival. Sarah felt her scientific worldview tilting on its axis. You're saying there's an entire network of alien civilizations out there, all in contact with each other. Many thousands, Lyra confirmed through their written light. Earth has been watched, protected, kept hidden until you were ready. My mission was to assess your preparedness for first contact. And the Vardek? Marcus asked, his researcher's mind clearly racing with implications. They believe that contact between species inevitably leads to conflict and destruction. They would rather see Earth remain isolated forever than risk its integration into the greater community. David leaned against a console, his military training evident in his tactical assessment. So these hunters aren't just after you. They're trying to prevent Earth from joining some kind of galactic federation. Lyra's skin flushed with that warm golden color that Sarah had come to associate with their most intense emotions. Yes, but there is more. Their writing hesitated, the letters forming slowly. I chose Earth for my emergency landing for a specific reason. Your species possesses something unique, something that could change everything. Sarah moved closer to Lyra, drawn by the intensity of their expression. What do you mean? Your capacity for empathy, for connection across boundaries. Most species we encounter are either entirely logical or purely emotional. Humans bridge that gap in a way we've never seen before. Lyra's skin rippled with patterns Sarah had never seen, complex and beautiful. You, Sarah, proved this the moment you found me. You combined scientific curiosity with compassion. You chose to help despite the risk, to trust despite the unknown. The alien's hand reached out, touching Sarah's arm. The contact sent waves of warmth through her, and she watched in amazement as her own skin seemed to glow faintly where they touched. The connection between them had grown stronger, more tangible. That's impossible, Marcus breathed, staring at the phenomenon. No, Lyra wrote, their script taking on an excited quality. It is evolution. Humans possess a latent ability to connect with other conscious beings. You call it empathy, but it is far more. Under the right conditions, with the right catalyst, it can become something more tangible. David cleared his throat. That's fascinating and slightly terrifying, but we have more immediate problems. The Vardek will track us here eventually. We need a plan. Sarah barely heard him, still captivated by the glow spreading slowly up her arm. She could feel Lyra's emotions now, not just see them displayed in their skin, but actually feel them. Hope, fear, determination, and something deeper, something that made her heart race. The Vardek aren't just hunters, Lyra continued, their writing gaining urgency. They are the first wave. If they fail, others will come. Those who would rather see Earth destroyed than allowed to join the greater community. We must prove that humanity is ready, that your species can handle the truth without descending into chaos. Marcus had pulled out his tablet, running analyses on the strange reaction between Sarah and Lyra. This connection, it's changing both of your cellular structures. It's like your biology is learning to speak the same language. Because that's exactly what's happening, Sarah realized, decades of research finally clicking into place. This is why we've never found evidence of alien life despite all our searching. We weren't just looking for the wrong signals. We were looking with the wrong senses entirely. Lyra's skin brightened with joy at her understanding. Yes, true communication between species isn't about words or mathematics. It's about sharing consciousness itself. Humans have this ability naturally, but it lies dormant. My presence is simply awakening what was already there. David pushed off from the console, pacing the room. That's why the Vardek are so afraid. If humans can bridge the gap between species this easily, their whole ideology falls apart. But it's more than that, Sarah said, understanding flowing through her enhanced connection with Lyra. If humans can learn to communicate this way, we could become translators between species that have never been able to understand each other before. We could help bring unity to a divided universe. Lyra's skin erupted in patterns of pure joy, casting rainbow lights across the bunker walls. Their next words appeared larger than before. Now you understand why I had to protect this potential at any cost. Why Earth must be given its chance. Sarah felt tears in her eyes as the magnitude of it all hit her. This wasn't just about her and Lyra anymore, or even about Earth's first contact with alien life. This was about the next step in human evolution, about their species' role in something vast and beautiful. But her brother's tactical mind hadn't stopped working. The Vardic will have called for reinforcements by now. We need to prove humanity's readiness before they arrive, or none of this will matter. Lyra's expression turned serious, their skin settling into determined patterns of blue and silver. There is a way, but it will require tremendous trust and tremendous risk. As they began to outline their plan, Sarah felt the weight of history settling around them. In this hidden bunker, 4 unlikely allies were plotting not just their survival, but potentially the future of human-alien relations. And at the center of it all was a connection that defied scientific explanation, a bond between human and alien that might just change everything. Worlds unite. The dawn sky blazed with unnatural light as the Vardic warship dropped its camouflage, hovering over the mountain range like a crystalline thundercloud. Sarah stood with Lyra at the bunker's observation point, their joined hands glowing with shared energy. Through their deepened connection, she could feel the gravity of the moment weighing on both of them. "They're early," David said, checking his tactical displays. "We've got maybe an hour before their ground forces reach us." Marcus hadn't slept, spending the night helping Lyra modify human technology with their advanced knowledge. "The transmission array is ready. If this works, Sarah finished, we change everything." Their plan was audacious, born of desperation and hope. Using the bunker's old broadcast equipment, enhanced with Lyra's technology and Sarah's newfound abilities, they would transmit the truth not just to Earth's governments, but to every member of the galactic community within range. Not through words or signals, but through the shared consciousness that Lyra had awakened in Sarah. "The Vardic fear this moment," Lyra wrote, their skin shimmering with determination. "Once humanity proves its ability to bridge worlds, there can be no more isolation, no more barriers between species." Sarah squeezed their hand, watching as the glow between them intensified. Over the past hours, their connection had grown stronger, deeper. She could sense Lyra's thoughts now, not just their emotions. The alien's presence in her mind was like starlight, beautiful and infinite. David's voice crackled over the comm. "Multiple contacts approaching from the north. They're not even trying to hide anymore." Through the reinforced windows, Sarah could see them. Dozens of Vardic hunters, their human disguises discarded. In their true form, they were beings of pure energy, their crystalline bodies refracting the morning light into dangerous prismatic patterns. "Ready the defenses," Sarah ordered, feeling strangely calm. "Buy us the time we need." Marcus initiated the bunker's modified security systems. Fields of electromagnetic energy sprang up, creating barriers that would disrupt the Vardic's energy-based forms. David's more conventional defenses added layers of protection. Automated turrets loaded with specially designed rounds that would interfere with the aliens' molecular cohesion. But their real defense was what was happening inside the bunker's main chamber. Sarah and Lyra stood at the center of a hastily constructed array of transmitters, satellite dishes, and modified quantum computers. Their joined hands had become a nexus of light, energy flowing between them in visible waves. "Remember," Lyra's thoughts came clearly now, words unnecessary. "Focus on what makes humanity unique. Show them what I've seen in you." Sarah closed her eyes, letting the connection deepen. Through their bond, she began to broadcast not just thoughts but experiences, memories, emotions, everything that made humans who they were. She showed their capacity for adaptation, their resilience in the face of adversity. But more than that, she showed their ability to grow, to change, to reach across boundaries that seemed insurmountable. The first impacts shook the bunker as the Vardic began their assault. David's defenses answered with precise bursts of energy, keeping them at bay. But they were numerous and determined. Through the chaos, Sarah maintained her focus, feeling Lyra's strength joining with her own. Together, they pushed their shared consciousness outward, breaking through barriers of space and species. She felt other minds touching hers, distant observers from the galactic community, watching and judging this crucial moment. They're breaking through the outer perimeter. David's voice was tense but controlled. Marcus worked frantically at his console, rerouting power to maintain the broadcast. Keep going. The signal is reaching further than we ever thought possible. Sarah felt the strain building, the effort of maintaining such broad contact threatening to overwhelm her. But Lyra was there, supporting her, showing her how to handle the vast flow of consciousness. Together, they pushed harder, reaching further. Suddenly, new minds joined the connection, human minds. Their broadcast had reached Earth's population. Across the globe, people were experiencing firsthand the reality of alien life, feeling the truth of humanity's potential future among the stars. The Vardic must have sensed what was happening. Their attack intensified, energy weapons scaring the bunker's walls. But they were too late. Through her expanded awareness, Sarah felt the shift in the galactic community. Species that had never been able to communicate directly were connecting through the human interface she and Lyra had created. Ancient misunderstandings dissolved as empathy flowed freely between civilizations. The bunker's main door burst inward in a shower of sparks. Vardic hunters poured through the breach, their crystalline forms blazing with fury. David's last defenses engaged, filling the air with chaos. But Sarah and Lyra never broke their connection. As the Vardic approached, they were met not with weapons but with understanding. The broadcast had reached even their minds, showing them a future beyond isolation and fear. The lead hunter stopped, its crystalline form resonating with new awareness. Through the shared consciousness, Sarah felt their resistance crumbling, replaced by wonder at what humanity had achieved. Across Earth, governments were mobilizing, but not in panic or aggression. The shared experience had awakened something in humanity as a whole, an understanding that they were ready for their place in the larger community of species. As the sunrise painted the mountains gold, Sarah opened her eyes to find the Vardic hunters standing down, their energy forms dimmed in submission. Through their connection, Lyra's joy blazed like a supernova. It is done. Lyra's thoughts merged with hers. Earth has proven itself. The age of isolation is over. Sarah turned to them, their shared glow illuminating the chamber. What happens now? Now, Lyra's skin shimmered with that warm golden color that Sarah had come to love. We build bridges between worlds. And you, my dear human, will help lead the way. David was securing the surrendered Vardic, while Marcus excitedly documented everything. But Sarah barely noticed. In that moment, looking into Lyra's eyes, she saw not just their future but the future of all species, a future where differences became strengths and boundaries became bridges. Together, she asked, though she already knew the answer. Lyra's response came in both thought and glowing script, a promise that spanned the stars themselves. Always together. Outside, the morning sun rose over a changed Earth. Humanity had taken its first real steps into a larger universe, led by a love that transcended species and space itself. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and it was more beautiful than anyone could have imagined.